Hello and welcome to the Bears and Lions podcast. This is the podcast where we challenge our present by viewing our past. I'm a firm believer that our greatest future lies within the correct view of our past, because when you actually look at it, you're going to see that there's probably some people in your life that have poured into you and have influenced you and inspired you over the years. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. I'm actually going to share the top 5 most influential people in my life over the last decade and a half or so. I call them my board of directors. And I think it's important that everybody has a board of directors. So I kind of walk through how you should choose your board of directors as well. I really hope that this conversation encourages you, and I'll see you on the other side. So I think this is a great conversation for where we are in the year. Some of you may have had New Year's resolutions and had goals at the beginning of the year, and now is the time where summer's about to hit, so you kind of are starting to look for that summer love, or maybe you already have a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend and a significant other, so you're not really thinking of that, but maybe you're thinking of vacation, or maybe you're thinking of taking a break. Those are the type of things that come around June. It's really almost as we're nearing that halfway point of the year, that's where we need to refocus and say, okay, where are we at? What are some of our goals and what are some of the things that we're doing? And so as I've kind of looked at my life and where I'm at and what I look to and the people who I listen to, I really want to talk to you today about a board of directors. And every successful company that gets to a certain size, they get to a certain level of growth, they all have a board of directors. And these board of directors have a ton of jobs, but it's all top down. From that board of directors, it's going to impact every single human or every single person that's in that company one way or another. And this is exactly how our minds think when it comes to our goals and our pursuits and our desires and our passions and our futures that we want to create. We all have that same mentality of from the top down, from our brain and from the way that we process emotions, process our viewpoints, process our values, process our desires. That all impacts what the rest of our body is going to do. So I wanted to go over the board of directors and how I kind of view it, as well as go over the board of directors that I carry, because I think there's an importance to have a board of directors that can keep you focused. Now, what is a board of directors? I'm just going to quickly go through this so we can have kind of a base level. And I have a few things written down of what a role of a board of directors has in a company, and then we'll use it to show that role or how it might impact you throughout your day-to-day. So a board of directors is going to help the company define objectives, establish major goals, and stay the course or stay focused on its direction over time. Because companies can, start to lose track of where they were originally going or how they originally started. They may start pouring funding into different projects that they originally weren't ever going to do. And so a board of directors can keep them on the path and focused. In the same way, when it comes to our brains and what our thoughts are, the question should be, what do you actually want? And where are you actually going? And how are you going to get there? And are you being kept accountable? These are all things that a board of directors can kind of help shape in our minds of, okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm going for. And when you start to get sidetracked, that board of directors can say, I think you really want this. And it's up to you to have those people in your lives to say and keep you accountable and say, aha, I knew it. I actually was starting to stray. So thank you for getting me back, because I want this more than I actually want that. Even though I kind of want that at the moment, I know that this is my pursuit for the long haul. Another thing that a board of directors is going to do is they're going to oversee senior or upper management. So they're going to help make important decisions, right? When you're deciding now is the time where I quit school, or now is the time where I go back to school, or now is the time when I quit this job, or now is the time where I go in and I try to buy a house or buy a ring. This is when I ask her father if I can marry her, right? These are the big decisions in lives, and the board of directors is going to help bring some wisdom and help you make some of those important top-down decisions that's going to affect you the rest of your life. So you need to have people, and you need to have that ability to make those decisions. Another thing is going to be a board of directors is going to define a process or schedules or protocols that are in place. If this happens, then this will happen. We talked about it in the past, that it's important to have protocols. It's important to be able to establish those areas of, when this happens, I know that this is going to happen. When it does, this is my response to it. And a board of directors, they're going to be able to see a big picture, right? And they're going to lay out the steps. It's almost like having a puzzle with each puzzle numbered, and then you just have to follow the numbers, and eventually the picture is going to come together, because it's all the steps to make it happen. And I think it's so cool too, because as I've broken it down in my life, it's something that's tangible, right? Great companies have a board of directors, and that board of directors is going to help them stay the course and grow. I believe, honestly, that each and every one of us should have a board of directors personally. And if you are in the lonely season of life where you don't have a close community or a close group of friends, you can still have a board of directors. They could be alive or dead, right? They could be authors or thinkers or entrepreneurs or builders, etc. But you need people, right, that have already done it. And one, it's going to show you that it's possible. Two, it's going to show you how to get there. And if you are able to kind of build a board of directors that are going to lead and guide you and help you, you're going to avoid a lot of the pitfalls, because they're going to teach you about, hey, don't go down this path. This is a dead end. And they're going to teach you about, you should probably go this way if you're trying to reach this. If you're trying to do something like this, you should probably go this direction. They're going to teach you all the things and show you, and you're going to be able to move a lot quicker and a lot wiser without having to make the mistakes, right? And that's what we're all about, is we're trying to view our past correctly and step into our future confidently by maneuvering in our present, right? We want to challenge our present by recognizing what others have learned. And sometimes it's not, hey, I learned this in the past. It's, hey, that person learned this in the past, and I want to do what they're doing now, and they say I should avoid this. So now in my present, I'm keenly aware I should avoid this. And so I want to go through just my top 5 board of directors. And these are the 5 most influential people currently in my life right now. And I just want to preface this. None of these people have I ever met in real life. None of these people even know I exist. Well, maybe one of them knows I exist, but that's I'll talk about that later. But I'm just going to go through each of these people who have been influential in my life. So one of the number one most influential people in my life over the last decade and a half or more is Erwin Raphael McManus. And Erwin McManus is a pastor. He's a futurist and a New York Times bestseller. He is an incredible writer, and some of his books have changed the way that I think about life, including The Barbarian Way, Soul Cravings, Chasing Daylight, The Last Arrow, and most recently, I've been working on his new book, Mind Shift. I've been reading through this and studying, and we're going to have a conversation about it, maybe even 2 conversations or more, because it's packed full of goodies that just show you how to have the mindset of somebody who's able to make moves and build a future for themselves and for the people around them, which I think is so important. Number 2, Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi is an entrepreneur. He's an author and a work enthusiast. You probably can't see it, but there's actually one of his books right behind me, $100 Million Leads. But it's incredible to watch what he's done. I think he's right around my age anyway, but he is worth hundreds of millions of dollars more than me. But his books, $100 Million Offers and $100 Million Leads, are both on the top 60 best-selling books on Amazon. right now, and he's been there for a long time. And the way that he writes the books is so that they'll be a top seller for long after he is gone. But Alex Hormozi, his podcast, The Game with Alex Hormozi, is his way of documenting and sharing his journey to building $1 billion business. I genuinely think that Alex is the culmination of leading by example. Everything he shares is, this is what I've done, this is what's worked. And if you want to do well in business, if you want to do well in sales, if you want to do well in this area of life, and it leads into far more than just business. It bleeds into work ethic. It bleeds into your relationships and friendships and the way that you view life. And I don't agree with everything that he says, but I agree with a lot of the things he says. And it's evident because he's built a stack of undeniable evidence that this actually works. And so you can trust it. And I'm very thankful for finding his podcast and then reading his books and just being able to watch him grow and his willingness to share on social media. Number 3, I would say the third most influential person in my life is Chris Williamson. And Chris Williamson is a podcaster, a YouTuber, and a club promoter. But his podcast, Modern Wisdom, it explores and celebrates diversity of thought. His guest list honestly rivals the guest list of the Joe Rogan Experience. A lot of his guests either have spoken on Joe Rogan's podcast or they are going to speak on Joe Rogan's podcast, but he also does a great job of bringing in people from all areas of life, science and business. And it's just really, really cool to see him expand, right? Chris's curiosity and his humility and conversational skill, it's really expanded my knowledge over the last year or two that I've come across. And honestly, he's made this meteoric rise. It's been so cool to watch him grow. He now has over 2.1 million subscribers on YouTube, and his podcast has some of the most incredible guests that I've honestly learned so much from because he is so good at interviewing. He asks the questions that you didn't know you needed the answer to, but when you hear the answer from these experts and you hear the answers from these people, it just resonates with you a little bit different. Number 4, the fourth most influential person in my life is Cody Sanchez. She's the founder and CEO of Contrarian Thinking. And honestly, she's a new member to my board of directors, but she's quickly provided some massive contributions through her podcast, Big Deal by Cody Sanchez. And honestly, her Contrarian Thinking challenges that status quo thought. And it forces thoughts from a different point of view. It really helps and it benefits you to stop thinking in just the same way that it's always been thought of. And of course, we can always know, hard work pays off. But then you need a contrarian thought of okay, it's not just hard work, but what else can we do? And maybe it's hard work in a specific area instead of just hard work altogether that may be damaging over time. And I really appreciate that she has, started this podcast and kind of allowed her voice to be heard, but also some of the things that she has accomplished and the way that she speaks, her keen awareness of just humanity and the way that people act and think. It's really unique. And I think it helps connect the dots to things that sometimes are very difficult. And so it helps you with the wise choices going through life. And number 5, and this guy will probably always and forever be on my board of directors, and he'll never, ever know it. Or maybe he will, I don't know. But Hank Fortner. Hank Fortner is the founder of the nonprofit Adopt Together. So he's the founder of the nonprofit Adopt Together. And Hank is also a former podcaster and a speaker. And honestly, some of his talks from years ago, we're talking years ago, resonated so much inside of my soul that his words have actually become a part of who I am, to the point where I still to this day will talk about him as if I just listened to his talk yesterday. I've told countless people about lessons that he's taught me through his amazing conversations that I listened to years ago. And honestly, it's been so cool to see his nonprofit, Adopt Together, over the last 11 years, they have helped over 5,000 families raise over $35 million to adopt children from 67 countries. And one of the things that he does every year is this annual baby ball that is just so cool. And it's sponsored by like Warner Brothers and CBS. And it's incredible. He has incredible people come in, celebrities, and everybody wants to support this very amazing nonprofit organization that just helps build community and build families. And it's something that's so unique. And I will just say this about Hank. We haven't had the conversation of the days of the week yet, but years ago, I listened to a series that he went through the rhythm of our week. And he went through every single day and the etymology of Monday through Sunday. And it changed me at a molecular level to the point where I cannot think of Mondays or Tuesdays or Thursdays or Saturdays the same ever again. And in fact, if you've known me at all, at some point I've brought up to you what Tuesday actually means. It is that important to me. And it's that type of change that I am just so grateful to have incredible people. And Hank might actually know that I exist because we have messaged back and forth on Instagram a couple times. And I'd love to have him on the podcast at some point. It would be so incredible to have him on the podcast. He's such a great speaker, full of joy, full of life, and honestly, full of wisdom. I did want to kind of give you some honorable mentions in my board of directors. I would say that they are people who are help in the board of director decisions. But Joe Rogan, I think his joy of life and curiosity is unparalleled in the podcast world. Honestly, the Joe Rogan Experience, I don't agree with everything that's on his podcast, and I don't agree with everything that's on a lot of these podcasts, but I do love the fact that there's a diversity of thought and there's such a joy of wanting to know truth and wanting to know life and wanting to learn. It's not coming from I have an agenda that I need you to fill this time with talking about my agenda. It's I want to learn. And that is something that's so unique. Andrew Huberman as well, neuroscientist out of Stanford. Honestly, his podcast, Huberman Lab podcast, it provides such a vast amount of knowledge to so many people. And it's scientific, where he brings evidence and he breaks it down in a way that even somebody as dumb as me can understand at times. So I really appreciate him. And then Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink, you've probably heard of Jocko podcast. He's a retired Navy officer. He's also an overall badass and an author. And he gets me so fired up to live and to work and to put in the work and to stay on the path. I mean, it is, there's a video, if you Google or YouTube, Jocko Willink, the path, it's going to come up with like this 2-minute video that will legitimately get you so hyped up, you'll run through a brick wall and want to keep going. But Jocko is actually the person who inspired me to start taking pictures of my watch in the morning. Last year, I was on this 3-month kick of every morning I would take a picture of my watch as soon as I'd wake up, because that's what Jocko does. Jocko, he's always posting on social media a picture of his watch, and he has one of those Iron Man watches, and it's nothing special, but it's one that you can get at like Walmart. And he's got a Iron Man watch where he takes a picture, and it's always like 4:30 or whatever, and he's working out at that time. And he's just, it's this mentality of, you can do this, and you should put all effort in to get what you want out of life. Nobody is going to come and do it for you, so you should put the work in yourself. His book, Extreme Ownership, really impacted my life as well in a way that has helped me in ways that I didn't even realize I needed help, where I've taken ownership of relationships and friendships and the way that I live my life. I own it. Mistakes that I make, I own it. Things like that. It's always going to be my fault, whether it is or it isn't. It helps me get past it so much quicker, where years ago, if it wasn't my fault, I wouldn't take ownership of it. I would fight. No, this wasn't my fault. And I want to make sure that this, doesn't get attached to my name. And I would spend months trying to, argue my case of why it's not my fault or why it wasn't me. And nowadays, what used to take months, I'll just take ownership of it. And within a day, I'll just correct it. Whatever it is, even if it's not my fault, sure, I'll take ownership of it. And it's something that I really, really appreciate that book teaching me how to do. So one more that I think is definitely important to mention is also Layla Hormozi. She's the CEO of acquisitions.com. Her podcast, Build with Layla Hormozi. It's like combining all of the best leadership books and management books and making it like a compiled, simple way of understanding in like a 20 to 30 minute podcast or an hour podcast here or there. And she is so unique. Her knowledge and then her business knowledge is so good because she has worked her way up and she's still fresh in the mind of what it's like to be that lowly, bottom of the barrel employee. And so she runs her business with that bottom of the barrel employee in mind. And honestly, it's just refreshing. She's the spouse of Alex Hormozi. And so they kind of just pair together so well, where Alex is such a deep thinker, but a strong individual. And she is such a strong individual and a go-getter in that she can make those decisions so quick. They pair so well together. A couple others that I'll just kind of mention. PBD, Pat Bet David, Jay Shetty is another one, Lewis Howes. And there's so many more that I could name of people that have influenced me that I've never met, but they're the people who have helped develop my ability to think, not just think about how they view life and imitate exactly how they view life, but imitate what they've done to get where they are. And that's something that's been so cool is just seeing all of these people continue to grow and then continue to do what they're talking about and learning with you. And then, the next thing you know, they share things that are just so incredible that their platform really does help so many people. I mean, we're talking millions of listeners across all of these incredible authors and creators and content creators and YouTubers and podcasters. I mean, they just have millions of people that are being impacted daily. So I really wanted to share that with you. And what the process of building your board of directors, I think it's important to build your own board of directors. I mean, who are the people that live the way you want to live? Who are the people that are already doing what you want to do, right? I think that it's so important to learn from them. Learn from them. They're going to show you the right way. They're going to show you the better way because they've already gone through it. And I think it's ignorance that allows us to say, nobody's ever done what I've done before, and so I can't listen to them, and I have to learn by doing as much as I can and making as many mistakes. When I think wisdom will show you that you may be doing something that they've never done before, but they've traveled some of your path. And so some of their wisdom will actually keep you from some of the pitfalls that they ran into on their path. So you can be original and you can do your own thing, but you can learn from them nonetheless and probably avoid some of the pitfalls and the mistakes that they made. And so I think it's really, really important. And I get wanting to be original, but if you want to master something, then first you must be willing to apprentice it. Even though Apostle Paul in the Bible said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And I think you'd be surprised how many people are out there that have already paved the way for you to go and pave the way for you to step into your future. And now it's just up to you. It's up to you to follow that road and see it through. And as I have kind of thought about all of these things, I really have been just overwhelmed with joy and gratefulness for all of these incredible people who have poured their lives out for the internet. And of course, I've never met any of them in real life, but their knowledge is available and their knowledge has helped me. And that's why they pour themselves out, is because they actually do impact people. And that's what I hope this podcast does, is it inspires and impacts people. And years down the road, when we're on, episode 500 or whatever, I really hope that this podcast will be one that other people will have me on their board of directors who will say, wow, like you inspired me, things like that. But the thing is I still need to do things. There are still things that I am doing. So I will still progress, but there's also things I've already done. And so it's all perspective. And of course, there are some things in my life that I still haven't shared with you. So we've got plenty of things to share and lessons that I've learned. But it's just been so incredible seeing how many people are supporting and how many people are out there sharing what they've experienced to support you along the way. So you should never feel alone, and you should never feel like you can't make a decision. And if you don't know where to go or you don't know where to start looking to the people who are the board of directors in your life. Who are you listening to, and who's doing what you also want to do? That's going to do it for this conversation. I really hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Remember to give grace, show love, and as always, stay stellar. Peace.